Welcome to another episode of Screen Surfers. We're here today to talk about the recently released Marvel / Disney Plus series. Originally limited series, but I guess now is probably maybe getting another installment. Anyways, Moon Knight. We're here to talk about it.
Yeah, it was interesting. They changed it on us, or at least that's what I read. So, like, originally, like you said, it was supposed to be a limited series.
Yeah.
So, if any of you ever watch, like, British television, that's how they do a lot of their shows. They'll do, like, a season, but they won't tell you, like, there's going to be a season 2. They'll just be like, okay, here's a season. This is a complete story. We might leave it that way. So, Moon Knight, similar thing. They just did a single season, and they were like, yep, they tells a whole narrative arc, beginning to end, whatever, and they're like, yeah, that might be it. But then, so they had that on that as Disney Plus, like limited series, but then they changed it to season 1. So now, I guess maybe there will be season 2, which I would really
implication
enjoy.
is season 2. I guess do we want to start? We kind of typically start with our overall impressions. It was okay for me. I enjoyed it overall. I guess because it's a little bit different. We're not reviewing a single episode. We're reviewing it as a whole kind of 6 episode thing. It kind of lost me somewhere around episode 2 or 3 in the middle there. And then kind of by the end, by episode, like end of episode 5, beginning of episode 6, kind of got me again and got me back into it. And by the end, I was able to kind of look back at the thing at the series as a whole and kind of appreciate it. But yeah, it's solidly like, a little better than mediocre for me.
No, I really enjoyed it. I'm a big Moon Knight fan, and ever since like Moon Knight's been, I don't know how, like, character for quite a while, but they, like, comic series came out in the 90s and stuff, but recently, the last like 10 years or so, there have been these like Dynamite Moon Knight graphic novel series that I've really, really enjoyed. And I guess, like, one thing is, like, I always enjoy a hero that's got more going on than, like, your average character. And I think that's why I'm drawn to like, I really enjoy Daredevil, and I really enjoy, like, Ghost Rider, and I really enjoy even the Punisher to an extent. Those characters that aren't just your
straightforward, I'm a good guy, and that's all I got going on.
I was struck by lightning, and now I run fast or something. And then it's like that's kind of what they got going for him. I love that Moon Knight uniquely has the mental health aspect or angle going for him, and I'm trying to think of, like, any other heroes. There's not, like, a lot of heroes that really lean into that.
Rorschach kind of, but not really.
I guess, like, he has kind of like an ill-defined sort of mental illness.
Generally fucked up, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess, like, Watchmen is a supreme example of, like, heroes that don't necessarily fit
flawed
into the mold. Yeah. So I was curious when they announced it. Well, I was really excited when they announced the show because I'm like, well, that's going to be fucking sick. I love Moon Knight. But I was really curious as to how they were going to adapt that stuff. And I was like, are they going to avoid touching on the multiple personalities? Because, like, that's not necessarily the easiest thing to portray on screen. And, like, there's movies that have done it before, and, like, Marvel properties, like, they kind of usually shy away from, like, the darker subject matter. So I was excited to see when the now that I've seen the whole show, is that they totally leaned into it. Like, they went they were very true to the character as far as the mental health aspect goes, his multiple personalities. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I was super excited about that. I love that it was a 6 episode. This is something that I kind of wish more television would adopt.
Yeah,
and I'm really glad.
The 6 episode format.
Don't fucking have fluff episodes. Tell a narrative that's constantly moving, that has a good pace. And, like, I thought Moon Knight did a really good job of, like, set up like your 3-act structure. Like
mm-hmm.
There were no episodes that felt particularly filler to me, which was really nice. Each one was revealing a little bit more about either the villain or Moon Knight or some character that you haven't heard of. Like, something was being introduced, something was being moved forward. Like, that was really
things kind of got a little stale for me. There's those 2 episodes where they're like, I guess we're doing spoilers or no, or I don't know. Like, there's the 2 episodes where, after the altercation in the temple, and he's been shot.
Mm-hmm.
and it's like that. There's like I think two full episodes that are dedicated to like him being essentially in his own mind and like also the afterlife probably, and we're
Mm-hmm.
not sure if it's there's a whole thing of like him having the mental illness. Is it real? Is it his own like
Mm-hmm.
fantasy or his own delusion? And it was good. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like I agree. It revealed stuff, and there was a reason for it, so it wasn't just fluff. But it did kind of like stall things out a little bit for me. Um, but ultimately, because it revealed necessary things of his character, and also now that we know it's going to be in service of like they're setting up other stuff as well,
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of forgive a lot of that just because if it was a limited, if this is the only thing we're going to see, it's like, why do we need two full episodes of just like not a whole lot happening really in terms of action and keeping me interested? Um, that's also, I guess, with the caveat of like, I'm not I'm not a fan of the comics as a character before watching this. So that kind of, it informs my opinion quite a bit, I suppose.
Yeah. It was interesting because they've not always been consistent about why Mark Spector has multiple personalities, and that like they've been building upon that whole aspect of his character, because like originally it was more just like he pretends to be two other guys because it allows him to get into different social circles. Like the one was a cab driver, which lets him hang out with like the scum of the city, and then the one was like a famous actor, and that allows him to hang out with high society. And like originally that was kind of the whole reason he had these. They weren't really personalities; they were just characters.
Personas.
And then as the character progressed, they were like, oh, he's getting so lost in these other personas that now they're developing the full-on personalities or whatever.
See, I like that better than what they did in the show. Honestly.
Well, yeah, but then that's like early stuff, and then as the time grew on, the whole multiple personality thing became so
ingrained
like, and then like important to the character. That's what like set him apart from everyone else. He wasn't, because like before he was essentially Batman, and like that he didn't like really have his own identity, but then that multiple personality that finally gave him his own identity and his own and then they kind of grew that on. Then especially the last 10 years they've really leaned into that storytelling and how they can use that in cool ways. And I gotta say, I think they chose a few good like famous graphic novels to adapt, and it's never gonna be perfect. The way that I sort of described it was like, if you've ever read the Civil War comic book series, and just how fucking awesome that is and epic and incredible, and then you see Captain America Civil War, and it's like, it's a very pale imitation of the comics, but it's like, it's an excellent movie in its own right. And like, as long as you're not taking it as like as a straight adaptation of that graphic novel, you're gonna have a great time with that film. Moon Knight was very similar to me, where it's like it's adapting several different aspects, several different graphic novels, is trying to compress them and trying to like
combine
get them
into
a cohesive like television narrative. And I thought it did a really good job, and I'm glad like it paid homage where it needed to pay homage in really good ways. I just thought Oscar Isaac was a fucking really good choice for Mark Spector, and like I love that when he's in his different personality, because like one thing that a lot of people said when the trailers came out for this show was they were like, why is Oscar Isaac putting on this terrible British accent? Like, it's really unconvincing. And like a lot of people were like, this is weird.
And then reveal why that is.
Yeah, it's like, it's because he's not British. It's like, this is a character in his head who's imitating a TV character. And so like that's where he gets his British accent from or whatever. And like, we're at 10. And yeah, I don't know. I Oscar Isaac probably deserves the most praise, because he's playing two whole characters throughout the entire show.
I thought the villain also, that was the one thing that really, the antagonist, he's a villain, but also kind of weird. Like it's kind of like Thanos almost. Like his motives are kind of in service of humanity, even though it's fucked up and he wants to kill half of us. That was really convincing and interesting to me.
Ethan Hawke played the villain.
Ethan Hawke, and it wasn't the traditional like what you see a lot in comic books. Like it's like, again, why I love Thanos as an antagonist as well. There's that like fanaticism and the like the this almost like pious. What's the word I'm looking for? Like altruism of like, I don't want to have to do this, but it's the only way to move forward. And that's so convincing to me as to why this guy would go to these levels to.
Yeah, it's much more compelling than your average like mustache twirling villain who's like the motivation is really thin, and it's
it's like greed. It's like you're really gonna. Yeah.
And Marvel has a tough time with that. Like they very rarely do they present us with really compelling villains, and then when they do, it's like their movies are always those movies always like come out from the pack and are a little bit better and a little more interesting, and that's why people like love Thanos and they like Loki and they like those characters are always going to stick with us because they're just a little more compelling, they're a little more deep than the rest of them. And I agree. I think Ethan, I'm trying to remember what his fucking name was, because he's not like a famous villain. He's like a Z-list guy that got picked up.
Marvel's great at taking those weird, insignificant characters and seeing the potential in them. I guess final thoughts. I like the Egyptian god thing. We haven't really seen that in any other property done well, and it was done interestingly and well. And I'm excited to see where they go. The world building, the production design, the costume design, all incredible. Overall, I guess, parting words for me. It's 6 episodes, and like you said, it's a pretty. It moves. The story moves, and it's compelling mostly throughout. I would definitely say, especially if you already subscribe to Disney Plus, definitely give this a check this one out. Even if you're not really a Marvel person, I would say this is interesting in its own right. I think.
Yeah, I think to dovetail off that, Andrew. Well, like you said about the Egyptian gods thing, and like I think the reason that was so well done is the director of the show is an Egyptian guy. And so Marvel like did a great job of like they got somebody who was Egyptian to like help write and help direct, and I think that's why it brought an air of like legitimacy to all the Egyptian mythology, and like when they go to Cairo, it feels very like authentic, and so I think that was excellent. And I think that's why the Egyptian stuff like came off so well. And I think I totally agree with you. Like all the costume design and all that stuff was totally on brand and was like really excellent. I thought the performances were really good. They had an Egyptian actress as well who kind of played it was Mark Spector's love interest, and I thought she did a really fantastic job. I think the narrative's interesting. Like you were saying before, I think even if you're not a Marvel fan necessarily, this series isn't. It's. We were talking about Doctor Strange and how it feels like you might need to do a ton of homework to like for a lot of the references to make sense in that movie.
Yeah, this would be a great entry point. If you're not a Marvel person, check this out. And if you're into this, maybe go back and look at some of the other TV shows, especially, I would say.
Yeah, Moon Knight felt totally disconnected from the rest of the Marvel. Not in a bad way, but it felt like you didn't need to have previous knowledge of any of the other heroes or any other movies. Like you can just watch this fresh and you're going to understand what's going on. I give it, it's not a perfect show, but I would probably, if I had to rate it out of 10, or I would say definitely watch it on Disney Plus. I would give it like an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really true to the character, a great adaptation of the source material.
I'd probably go like a 7, 7.5. It was good, but not great for me. That's all just personal preference stuff though. Like technically, I think it was executed very well and everything we already said. So.
Yeah. And I'm excited. I hope they do a season 2. They had a teaser at the end of the show, so stick around for that. I can't remember if it was during the. I think it was during the credits.
It was during the credits,
they have a little teaser for another character, and the only thing I'm missing though is the fucking Mooncopter. Please bring in the Mooncopter in season 2. I didn't get to see it. I want to see it. Thanks very much for watching.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing more stuff. Have some. Maybe reviewing some older content as well. So if you've always wanted to hear us talk about decades-old movies, that's coming up.
We'll definitely be checking out the Obi-Wan show and Top Gun this month. So look forward to those reviews.
Yeah.
Catch you later.